Hello. Welcome, or hopefully welcome back to Books and Budgets. I'm Ruth, and in my previous videos, I have successfully closed out my 2 paychecks for the month of April. Now it's early May, because I'm running a little behind. And what do I do with that information? What do I do to close out the month? Stay tuned, and I'll show you what I do and try to explain why. Okay, so here is our April budget. Get this out of the way. A little cola. It's a little treat after school. In my special fancy Coca-Cola glass that I got from McDonald's. Yes, I did a few years ago. Couldn't help myself. It is caffeine free because your girl would be awake tonight if it had caffeine and I was doing that this late. So here is, you'll notice this is my first April paycheck budget. I wanted to show you one thing that I don't think I usually take time for at the end of each paycheck budget. I show you how I track my expenses. I show you how I mark those expenses on my budget tracker, and I keep track of everything. You know, first I plan for it, then I show the actual, and I put all my numbers in. But then what? Then what do I do? Well, I like to evaluate what I've spent in terms of categories. And I cannot explain why. But when I first got into budgeting, having categories seemed like that was the purpose and the meaning behind all budgeting. I just really felt driven that I needed to have things in categories. And maybe it's because I had looked at several different types of budgeting forms, some budgeting spreadsheets, and all of them categorized it in some way. And I didn't feel like I was really budgeting if I didn't have categories. Well, of course, the Budget Mom has a form for that. And this allowed me to add some color and things, which I enjoyed. So I got this off of her free resource library, The Budget Mom, on YouTube or thebudgetmom.com. I had already evaluated my expenses, and I decided what was going to go in what category. Nobody can tell you. For instance, I put all my insurance here together, including car insurance, where some people will put car insurance under car or transportation. This I kept just for maintenance, repairs, and fuel. This is for the insurance, and tags and taxes, I guess, go in here. But you decide, and you write in what everything is. So this is my handy dandy little form. And with this, I will take a look at my expense tracker. Let me put the handy dandy form out of my way. Okay. Now the Budget Mom will do this too. She says she is a visual learner. I am not as visual. I've always been much more auditory, which is probably why I enjoyed learning things on YouTube channels. But she called it the highlighter method. You notice that I had colors associated with my different categories, and I have a category list right here where each one of the things that came out, I could write the category. So let's start with income. Didn't have a category. It was just income, or it's not on my sheet. But let's see. The very first thing that I had was home, which usually is my mortgage. And she would make a highlighter line that would go all the way across. I just do them on my category. Let's see. I have one other home one in the first half of the month. This is one way that you can do. I know my expenses so well that I can categorize them without having the visual, but I just thought this would be fun to do. I have groceries and eating out in the same color because they make up the same category for me, but I split them out because this is the category that gets out of control the fastest, and I wanted to know, oh, I missed one, eating out, whether it was the groceries or the eating out that was causing the problem. Originally, I have to admit, it was the eating out. I went from eating out way too often, especially when I was living alone and I wouldn't want to come home tired and fix a meal for one. I would probably eat out several times a week. Then my son moved in with me and I started budgeting and trying to save money, and it was 2 or 3 times a week. Now, generally, we'll eat out once a week and maybe eat at a slightly more expensive place. But this one, usually when we throw in Domino's for $13, that's an extra one that we've thrown in. So we've got the eating out down to where it doesn't usually exceed the budgeted amount. And now with inflation, of course, groceries has grown. So that ends up being an issue. Let's see, what else did I have? Utilities. I have one here. And I will tell you that, like I said, I don't always do this with the highlighters. And these are brand new highlighters. So I haven't quite reconciled the colors that I use, which these are Crayola markers that I had laying around the house. And I'm trying to find the equivalent in these new mild liners that I bought myself for Christmas. So, car or fuel? This is a lovely teal color. I love this color. This one, I think, in the mild liners, they call summer green. I know I have at least one. All right. And that's that. That was quick. What else do I have? Personal care. And this one is slightly blue-green. It's a lot lighter. And entertainment. Where did I put my entertainment? I know there was one. How could I not have entertainment on here? Well, this is just being silly. Okay, I know that I had entertainment in early April, but I can't see where I put it. The transfer to shopping, or that I count for shopping, right there. School, both my union dues, and the book that I ordered from Amazon. Let's see, I have a lot of miscellaneous. What's up with that? Okay. This was the eating out for Library Workers Day. This was something else that I gave him money for. I don't know. And this is my savings. It's been over a month, y'all. I'm sorry if I can't explain exactly where this went. I'm sure if you were to check the 1st of April paycheck video, and I can link it up here, I'm sure that I explained it all exactly. And I'm thinking what happened is that this was one of the times when my son gave me cash and I put it into entertainment and then transferred money to savings to cover that. I think that's what that $20 is right here. So if I had to say where my entertainment budget was, I think it's right there. Okay. Once I have this divided into categories, I have 2 pages that I have for an expense tracker. And on the bottom of the second one, I have put my categories. So I will go through and add all these up. Like the home, the $820.45 for my mortgage, and the $1637 equals $836.82. Okay, so I do groceries, I do eating out. I did not have any insurance expenses, any pet care expenses, any medical expenses this time. Nothing spent on gifts, and I had no debt, so no debt payments. And I didn't give anything to my son this time. So those are all my categories, but I don't use them every single time. And in the end, I add them all up. And I don't know if this is just me. I mean, I'm not an accountant. But I like to, I'm an English teacher of all things. But I like to see the patterns with the numbers. And so I will do things in multiple ways to try to get the same amount. Obviously, when you're looking at this, you start out with your income and you subtract all these things and you get to 0. You track your expenses. You make sure that all of these things are represented on here. and it gets to 50, which is my rollover amount. So on this, once I have them in categories, I add them all up one more time. And this 1,771.42 matches my actual income. So all of that makes me feel more confident that I've done it correctly. And then one last thing that I always do, and of course I don't have a check mark here because it's on my draft one that I do in pencil. I treat this like a check register. Not a lot of people still keep a check register because not many people keep or write checks. But if you ever did, you knew that what you were supposed to do at the end of the month was reconcile your register to your bank statement. You would check what your balance said it should be. You would add to your balance any things that had not cleared the bank yet. Any checks that had not cleared the bank, you would add that to your balance. Any income that had not gone in, that you already had in yours, you would subtract it. It always took me a minute to figure out whether I was adding or subtracting. But in the end, what you were trying to do is make sure that on the exact same day, at the exact same moment, your records match the bank's. And I still do that. And when it does, I make a little check mark beside it. So sometimes I'll do it 2 or 3 times during the paycheck period. But if you reconcile or add up this and it equals your income, you add all of these things to your paycheck budget tracker, and all the adding and subtracting come out right, and it takes your actual income down to zero based, and you can match it to your balance in your bank account. Then you have balanced your accounts. Now, I know that there are some times that they don't balance. I am one of those who will go looking for why. But the budget mom says if it's not a large amount, don't worry about it. This is not worth, tearing down your whole life and getting away from budgeting just because it frustrates you. I've seen her write off $10 or $20 and I'm like, oh my. But she's right. In the grand scheme of things, she was able to track most of every penny that she spent. Now, it's also true that she is a cash-based budgeter. She has cash envelopes. So sometimes what she puts in the cash envelopes and what's left over that she takes out, that's where things go wonky. There may have been $5 for an ice cream or handed to someone on the street, a donation. It could be almost anything that doesn't get written down when you're doing cash-based budgeting. I'm very lucky because that's one of the things I like about cashless budgeting. Everything is on my bank account. I can just look it up. So, all of that being said, I have the tracker for my first paycheck. I have my expense tracker. I have added up my categories. I have my second paycheck budget tracker, my expenses, and I'm going to talk about this probably another time. That's too involved. Again, I'm not going to go through and do all of the highlighting, but this would be the same kind of thing. And when taken all together, we put it, oh goodness, hang on. Let's get it where you can just kind of see what I have all my categories. This is for the second part of April. And let's just run through them because I don't have it added up here. So let's see. This one was a little tricky because I had some gifts that I put in another account, and I'm going to end up wanting to count those in my total. So but not in this one since I didn't go into this account. So let's see, 30, and I'll probably zoom you through this. And the total we get, if you can see that, is $2,226.27. So 2,226.27. And if we pull this down here and look, that is exactly the amount that we got from having our rollover of, or our checking buffer is actually what it is, of $50, the paycheck. I skipped this that went to the other checking account and put in my gift from my mom, and that came to that. So I do that for every pay period. And then what do I do? Well, I keep track of what I spend monthly. So I have another form, This one I made myself, but is very closely based on two forms that the Budget Mom uses. It's called Where Did My Money Go? And this is, I didn't want to fill it out on camera. It takes too long. And I filled it out in pencil, hoping that you wouldn't mind. But the idea is up here, you start with your checking buffer. You put in your earned income. These are your paychecks. So from both pay periods, this one, oh goodness, and let me see if I can find it. This one and this one. So the 1721.42 and the 1651.27 come to $3,372.69. Extra income, here's the money that my mom gave me. Savings used. This is where I am keeping track of, even though I put it in a different checking account. I put $120 from my sinking fund into that other account. So that plus a little bit more, which I accounted for in here, will go under gifts, and it will show more correctly what I spent on gifts at this time of the year. Because eventually what happened to my monthly money goes into what happened to my yearly money. And I kind of track some of that. And it gives me an idea of where I end up spending gift money. So all of this gives you a total monthly inflow, as the Budget Mom calls it. Again, I just use my Crayola markers and give it a little color. I like the rainbow effect. I go over how much I budgeted for the month in each category and how much I actually spent. And then when I work on the difference, if what I spent was less than what I budgeted, then I put it in green. If it was more than what I budgeted, I put it in red. What I spent on my home, like I said, when I budget, I often overestimate the expenses so that I'll have a little something. If my bills stay exactly what they're expected to be, I should have a little bit left over. I budgeted $550 for food, which I usually budget. I budget $200 for groceries and $75 for eating out every pay period, and there are 2 pay periods in my month. I'm very lucky in that. Filling out a monthly form when you get paid every 2 weeks, and you could never tell where the 2 weeks is going to land. You know, sometimes you have a magic month and it's got 3 paychecks. Sometimes your month starts and your last paycheck was over a week ago, and you know you have to have some money saved for that. I really like being paid twice a month. I would adjust to whatever I needed to, but so since I have 2 pay periods a month and I budget the same amount for each one, it comes to $550. And any month where I only go over in food by $2.54, that is a hallelujah month. I am not kidding. So utilities, lucky me, it was April and the heat wasn't coming on very much and the air wasn't yet needed. So I believe I went in my last budget with me, or maybe it was closeout of my second April paycheck. That's what it was. And I can link it up here if you want to see it. I took 130 of that and put it into savings for a utility sinking fund, so that this summer, when the air conditioning is running like crazy and my electric bill is $275 or $325. I can take my budgeted amount of $225 or whatever it is, and I can add just that extra 50 or extra 100 and have what I need without having to cash flow it, which is me doing my own levelized billing. Okay, sorry, off on a tangent. So insurance came in just a little bit under budget, like I expected. Car and fuel was much higher, but I did not really anticipate. I had been planning to buy new tires, and I knew this was the month to look, but I didn't work it into my plans at the beginning of the month. That was probably something I should have put on a calendar and said, okay, this is the month, so you're going to need to make some plans. But I'm not distressed by that because it's still, I mean, my mom gave me $525 and I spent $517 more than I expected. So I was within budget in that way. This is within budget. If anything comes in exactly as expected with no difference, then I count that as a win too. So it's in green. School, I had $3.44 more than expected. I think that was because of the book. Yes, that was because of the book that I ordered. Usually I am well under. And gifts, I was over because he's my only little boy and my only little one at all, even though he's, 6 inches taller than me and no longer little. But I didn't go crazy. I spent $158 on his birthday. And that's not including dinner. We did go out to dinner, but I had the entertainment money that we've had waiting to go to the movies or something for 2 or 3 months, and we hadn't spent it. I said, well, this is entertainment. So we went to the steakhouse. Miscellaneous was under savings. Even though this is more, I don't count this as overspending. I count this as another hallelujah moment. This is how much more I got to put in savings than I expected, and that's always good. I like the percentages because they tell me a little bit more, especially when watching personal finance channels. They will talk about how your housing should be 25 to 30% of your income, and it feels good when I see that mine is below that. Food, I can watch that balloon up, and that's not always good. Utilities were good this month. And you can kind of watch your trends over time. I haven't used this a whole lot, but I don't know, just the numbers person in me. Yeah, I know, English teacher with a numbers problem. Just the numbers person in me. I like having these numbers, and I will at some point decide I want to research something and go back, and everything I want is right here. That was another thing about doing taxes this year. Oh my goodness, it's so easy because I've accounted for every penny that I've spent. So that was really nice. This is a comparison with last month to kind of see if I'm staying on track. Last month, look how bad the spending was on food. It was $159 higher, and this was higher than budgeted. I'm sure the budget was the same. We must have eaten out quite a bit. I don't know what was up with that. Anyway, so utilities, we spent $54 less on utilities, and March wasn't a bad month. Spent more on the car because of the tires. Spent more on personal care because last month I didn't have a hair appointment that fell at the right time. In the way that magic months work, I have my hair appointment about every 5 weeks. So there's only 10 of them in a year. And I will take the money out of my second paycheck because that's where it's best to come out. Even if my appointment is in the first half of the next month, I will take it out of the second paycheck. But eventually, the calendar rolls back around again, and my appointment is in the second half of the month, and I don't need to take it out twice. So I have a month that I don't have to pay anything. And last month was that month, and so this is exactly the amount of my hair appointment. Entertainment, spent $30 less because I budgeted $30 more in March for spring break. School, that's exactly the amount of the book that I bought. Gifts was because of the birthday. And miscellaneous. Probably I have started allowing myself to count my book club meals or food that I buy for the potluck book club in miscellaneous rather than taking it out of my groceries or my cash flow. So, yeah, I'll live with that. And I put more money into savings. I love it when this number keeps growing. So that is my budget breakdown. I have other places where I will record certain things. In fact, I need to do a video about how I put together my notebook, the notebook that I use. And I put it together with things that mostly that I still had. In fact, I will, hang on, quick drink. I will give you a quick show of my battered old notebook. This was a notebook that I had laying around the house. It's got some dings and some dents, but it was right about the right size. I think that's 1 inch to 1.5 inches. I did buy some dividers, but I had what are they, page protectors, which I use to put certain things in the front of the book that have more to do with kind of a year's look. My little plant is getting mauled here. I had another little plant that I decided to bring and have some fun with. This one has a name. This one's Moonlight. I call this one Moonlight. That's her name. I think she is a pearls and jade pothos plant. And she's been growing. It's just one little sprig that has been growing and growing, and I'm about ready to, and it hurts me to think about it, but to chop her up and root her so that I can have a whole bushy plant. But I love the little variegation that she has. I have my tabs for January, February, March. It's just 1, 2, 3. I don't have them. And then I have some savings things in the back. It's not a fancy notebook. It's just one that I had in my house. I'm rambling at this point. This is how I close out my month. This is what I can refer to as the year goes through. And I'm going to have to figure out pretty soon how much stuff I actually want to keep from month to month. I might do something like get rid of my expense trackers and just keep my budget tracker and this, but for records purposes going forward. If any of this is helpful, please let me know or give me a little thumbs up. I would really like to know when somebody watches my video. So please give me a thumbs up. If there are any of you that are teachers, please feel free to, in the comments, let me know how your year is winding down, when you're going to be out, or what special plans you have for the summer. Thank you for watching. Thank you so much for even having an interest in my little bitty channel. I really appreciate it. I would tell you about the book that I'm reading, but quite frankly, I come home and I fall into my couch. And so it's more, what am I Netflixing right now? And by the way, that's Narcos. My son and I are watching Narcos. Thank you for coming by. Thank you for listening. I'm going to get out of your way now. Have a great evening.